How's it going, guys? This is Full Time Devils, and today it's time for another huge debate. What has been our best 11 of the season so far? Got two lads who know exactly what they're talking about and are going to have loads of great opinions today. I've got Paul from United Rantcast and Joshi. How's it going, boys? You okay?
Yeah, good, thanks.
So, today specifically, we're going to be speaking about what 11 has been our best team so far this season. So, not necessarily who you think are the best players, but who have been the best so far this season. So, Joshi, first things first, let's hear your team.
All right, so I don't think the goalkeeper is up for debate.
Well.
So, De Gea in goal. Tony Valencia at right back. I think on form, he's been... the best right back we've had this season.
Not even seen Darmian play, really, have we?
No, we haven't. And Foster Mensah's done well when he's come in, but he's not going to be challenging for that starting 11 spot at the moment. And then I think on current form, so far this season, you'd have, I think Eric Bailly, he's a shoo-in at centre-back. And then I would go with Smalling at centre-back and Blint at left-back.
Okay.
Not because I think Shaw isn't our best left-back, but just because the brief was, based on the season so far. He's had he's injured. He's been injured, and Blint has been in excellent form. And our best performances have been with those four at the back. Then at midfield, two of Herrera and Pogba. Herrera sitting, and then Mata, Rashford, and Martial. I'd go with, even though fair enough on form, he's not been the best this season, but I think he's coming into it, and I always think with him on the pitch things can happen, as in Martial, and then Ibrahimovic up top.
Well,
that'll be my 11 for the season.
As good a team that is, Joshi, I've just said we need our team of the best 11 players with the best form this season, and then you've gone, Marshall, he's not in great form, but he's getting in there.
Well, no. So let me qualify that. People are saying he's not in great form, but I think when he's on the pitch, things can happen, and things do happen. He maybe hasn't slotted in as many goals, but we have other players now that aren't the focal point that he was last season. So he's able to influence play in a different way. Ibrahimovic is getting goals. Rashford has got a couple, three, I think. Mata's chipping in. So, I mean, I think that people have been a bit harsh on him, I think. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're bang on. You are bang on. I'm only winding you up. But, I can see that Anthony Martial, after the Stoke game, is going to be on fire now, in my opinion. Paul, from United Rantcast, let's say you're 11 of the best form team that United have this season.
Gaz, I've got terrible news for you.
Oh, no.
You've literally just heard my best 11 because there's not a single position that I would disagree with in that whole lineup. I think the marginally controversial decisions, which would be Blint over Shaw at left back, therefore Smalling at centre back, I think on form you can't really argue against that. Like Joshi, I think that it obviously makes sense that Shaw would be our starting left back, but our best performances this season have come with Blint in that position. And I think Martial, the problem with the left wing choice in the 4-2-3-1 that we've been playing, so it's the only formation you can pick the 11 in, really. The problem with that left wing choice is no one's been in form there except Rashford when he's played there. And then you'd have the same problem on the right instead. I think that's bang on. You could make an argument for Lingard, who's been pretty decent in the last couple of games, but I think he was very poor against City. I wouldn't say that Martial's had a single very poor game this season. You could also just about at a push make an argument to have Rashford ahead of Ibrahimovic up front based on the last, since the most recent international break, but 6 in 10 games for the season as a whole, you can't argue against Ibrahimovic starting. So, bad news. I don't want Sergio Romero in goal. That is my 11 as well.
I'm just going to have to throw things in the mix, like whose haircut do you think is better soon, just to start a riot? But we do have we've got
obviously.
We've got a team as well from Dale from Stretty News. He's sent his team in and he's put this out. He says De Gea, Valencia, Bailey, Blint and Shaw. So that's the one change really. Blint in for Smalling in his team. He's gone for a 4-2-3-1. Herrera and Pogba with Rashford, Mata, Marshall playing behind Ibrahimovic. And that if Carrick had been featured a bit more this season, then he probably would have been in and made it more of a 4-3-3. What do you make of that decision, guys, from Dale at Stretty News TV to change the centre-half partnership and have Daley Blint there with Bailey?
Well, I think...
After you, Joshi.
Well, I was going to say, in terms of centre-back partnerships, I think Bailey and Blint have been more of a unit compared to Bailey and Smalling. But our best performances have come with Blint at left back, and Smalling and Bailey have been solid in the matches that they've played together. So overall, as a back four, I would say, in my opinion, the ones that we've chosen, that back four has been the better back four from a defensive perspective. So that's what I'd go for. But I mean, you could argue it either way. Luke Shaw looked pretty good in the first couple of games. Going forward, it's just defensively maybe he needs to step it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't argue too vociferously against that. It seems it's a decent enough, it's a good enough, four at the back anyway.
Paul, do you think Blint has a case as a centre half this season then?
Yes, definitely. And in fact, Smalling is in my back four by default, really, because it was just a question of which position Blint would play in, because there's no doubt that on form this season he would be in any 11 that you would pick. And there's a kind of interesting discussion to be had about which is our optimum back four, because I think that is a much more nuanced debate where you can really see arguments on both sides, because essentially, Blint's played at left back in 2 games, been excellent on the ball in both of them, but neither of them are games in which we're particularly challenged defensively. And I think Shaw really struggled when he came to United from Southampton, and he's kind of got to reacclimatise all over again. Clearly, Van Gaal did a lot wrong during his time at Old Trafford, but one of the things that he got right was the rebuilding of Luke Shaw. So the beginning of last season, we saw Shaw full of energy and purpose and drive, and he just looked the complete left back. But he's had an entire season out since then, and the manager who he had kind of become accustomed to and got used to, who, for all his many faults, does have an excellent reputation with working directly with young players, has been replaced with Jose Mourinho, who, for all his many positive qualities, is not necessarily the most adept at the subtle management of young players' confidence. So I think it's a big question going forward for the rest of the season.
Can you both tell me how you think that's going to change as the season goes on, and what you think that in May our final 11 will probably look like, our best 11? Paul, we'll start with you.
I think our best 11 plays 4-3-3. I've thought that ever since we signed Pogba. I think that became pretty evident. There's one very sad note in this, which I will get to as we move further up the pitch. I'm just steeling myself to drop one matter. It's not going to be easy, lads.
Maybe you could do a hug, a literal hug.
Yeah, for sure. So David De Gea in goal. I think it's a toss-up at right back between Fosu-Mensah and Valencia, because I do think Valencia has taken to the role brilliantly under Mourinho. And there was one moment in the match against Stoke where there was a counter-attack about to form down Stoke's left, and they were just over the halfway line, and Valencia went to charge in and foul his man, then checked himself and just jabbed a leg in and took the ball off him. And that was pure right-back play, and it was the kind of thing Valencia never would have done in his early right-back. So I do think he's genuinely growing into that role. And I have some questions which are kind of informed by people that watch a lot more of the youth team than me about whether Fosu-Mensah's role ever will actually be right-back. So for that reason, I'm sticking with Antonio Valencia, with the thought that Fosu-Mensah will become a kind of centre-back, centre-defensive midfielder as his career progresses. So we don't kind of want to waste him at right-back. That's a long spiel about right-back. The centre-back pairing, I think Blint and Bailly is the centre-back pairing of choice for me, purely because I don't want to drop Daley Blint, and I think Luke Shaw has to be our first choice left back going forward. I think Blint gives us so much in terms of possession, and I do think there's a very good case in certain big games to go with a more solidly defensive partnership of Smalling and Bailly. But my kind of first choice default at home against teams we're expecting to beat, Blint and Bailly, Shaw at left back. In the middle, the two automatic selections for me in a 4-3-3 with one holding and 2 number 8s is Pogba and Herrera as the 2 number 8s. That's automatic. Although actually what Mourinho's done is kind of reformat Herrera into a number 6, as he would call it, the more natural holding player. And Herrera's done a great job of that. But still, I think to get the best out of him, you have him and Pogba at number 8. And then I still think Michael Carrick is the choice at holding midfield. I can see the argument for Schneiderlin's energy and the fact that Carrick by the end of this season is going to be, certainly approaching the very end of his United career, probably the very end of his United career. But even though it was only Northampton Town, the amount of difference he made on the ball against Northampton was just a testament to what Carrick can do with the ball. And I think with the energy of Herrera and Pogba in front of him, that would work pretty well. There's a little caveat there, which is because we're playing Blint at centre-back, maybe we need Schneiderlin for extra defensive cover, but I'm saying Carrick nonetheless. Left wing, Anthony Martial, no argument. Yeah. In terms of...
Gotta be.
No debate. Ibrahimovic up front. That one's a little... because I think by the end of this season, we might be talking about Rashford up front. On the right, Henrik Mkhitaryan, I don't really... I guess it must be injuries. I think... Mourinho was kind of trying to bring him through and use him as a dramatic impact to kind of surprise Pep Guardiola against Manchester City, but the occasion overwhelmed Mkhitaryan and he got that injury and he's not really forced his way back into the side. So there's a kind of horrible vision of the future where Mkhitaryan never really makes it at United, but in my head, he's the natural first choice right winger. So there you go, 4-3-3 with... Mkhitaryan, Ibrahimovic and Martial up front.
Pretty sensational claim from you there, Paul, that Ibra could be dropped by the end of the season. You never know, though. If Rashford keeps on going, you just never know. Joshy, by the end of the year, who do you think that will be changed from your team of most informed players so far?
I don't know whether I'm predicting something here or whether it's just what I potentially would like to see. But again, I'm with Paul in that I think against the best teams, the better sides, we will end up playing three in midfield, and we won't be playing like Juan Mata behind the striker. We'll be playing a more slightly withdrawn midfielder. But I think I would potentially look at a similar back four, other than I'd have Smalling in centre back alongside Bailly and Shaw at left back, and maybe look at Daley Blind sitting in midfield.
I'd like that.
Because the ability he has on the ball is what we would miss if he moves away from that centre-back pairing. But I think Smalling is the better centre-back defensively. So Daley Blind sitting, he reads the game so well, that's his strength, and he passes it so well. And that's where this Michael Carrick debate, he looks like he could move into that role more naturally than someone like a Schneiderlin. Although I like Schneiderlin if you allow him the run of games to play in that midfield. And then the other two, Herrera, Pogba ahead of Blint, I think that would be a nice trio, working together. I think it would fit quite nicely. And then up front, similar to Paul, I think I would love Henrik Mkhitaryan to just get his form, get going, just overcome his injuries. Maybe he's had a few settling in problems, whatever it might be, just get over it and then really hit the form that he showed at Dortmund in the last 18 months. And again, I agree with Paul. Whilst Ibrahimovic is sort of Jose Mourinho on the pitch, I think he sees himself in Ibrahimovic on the pitch, that sort of arrogance, that swagger, that leadership on the pitch. I'm not sure. I don't know. He might be all right physically, but I'm not sure he can do 50-odd games in a season, consecutively. He's played, I think, every single Premier League minute so far, and he's doing well with it. And he's got a break now, so we'll see what happens. But in the last game, he was a bit off the boil. He should have put chances away. Other players should have done as well. But I think eventually Rashford will be up there. And I wouldn't actually argue against Rashford starting at right wing as well. It just depends on how Mkhitaryan comes through. I think Rashford at the moment is a definite. He has to start at the moment, but he's still only young. So again, he can't play 60 games a season at that high level consistently. But I think that's where we'll end up playing against the best teams. And we have that flexibility with the likes of Mata, Depay, Lingard to bring in, to play two in the middle or whatever it might be. But I think we've got a pretty good squad within those two formations that we've discussed today.
Right, so I'm really trying to make this huge debate an actual debate here. So that team that you both put there that you think is going to end the season as United's strongest 11, each of you are going to get 30 seconds to argue to me why it is going to be United's strongest 11. Now, the only difference in both of your teams is that you've put Daley Blind in different positions and therefore certain players aren't in. So I'm going to let you argue why Daley Blind should be in those positions. Paul, let's start with you. Tell me why your team's stronger. Go.
I think that Daley Blind has played better at centre-back than he ever has in midfield for United, except in a couple of very specific games in Van Gaal's first season, Sunderland at home, I think, if I remember correctly, where he played under no pressure in midfield. I think the real advantage that you have when you play him as a kind of defensive ball-playing defender is that there's less space behind him, so players can't exploit his remarkable lack of speed.
Brilliant. Nice one, Paul. That was perfect. Joshy, what are you saying then? Give you 30 seconds to tell me why your team's better than Paul's.
Well, given that Daley Blind has a remarkable lack of speed, I think Smalling at centre-back makes us a lot more solid defensively in the back. And if you have him Blind sitting in front of that back four, you're still utilising his ability to read the game, his ability to dictate play with his passing, his great range of passing. And I think he's sort of in the squad, the natural replacement for Carrick going forward. And yeah, I think overall that makes us a much more solid team and with balance. 30
seconds done. And Joshy, I'm going to give it to you because I completely agree what you say there about putting Blind in midfield and that you say he's the natural successor to Michael Carrick. Paul, mate, Michael Carrick in getting in my team. I look forward, not backward, mate. I look to the future. And it's good as well to get your teams, guys, there that you think is going to finish the season, compared to the team that you think is in the best form now, because as you'll remember under Louis van Gaal, at times he'd start the season with the absolute maddest lineups, and then in May we'd look completely different. So anything could happen from now until the end of the season. Guys watching at home, make sure you get in your comments below. Tell me your most informed United 11 right now, and then if you want, just below it, put what team you think Man United will finish this season with and who you think will make the first team come May. Right, Paul, Joshy, thank you very much for joining us today. Guys watching at home, thank you very much. Get in the comments, give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe, do all that lot. And I'm Gaz, and I'll see you next time. Laters.